right, so real quick, going over the shunt charging for the TIE Bomber. This is pretty universal for the TIE Interceptor, the TIE Fighter, the TIE Bomber. There are ways that you can basically have unlimited energy while firing overcharged lasers. So the best way to practice this is to go into practice mode under Empire. It doesn't matter the difficulty. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go through the steps as far as like practicing shunt charging so that you can keep practicing it in your off time, and then you can kind of get used to how it works and how you should be flying, so that it becomes second nature how you're moving. So the easiest way to show this, I'm actually going to show in the TIE Fighter here. It has very fast shunt charging to show very specifically how this works. All right, so what we're gonna do here, I guess it really doesn't matter, is we're kind of just flying here, and I am using micro thrust for the TIE Fighter. I would be using slam for the TIE Bomber. I'll do this in TIE Bomber as well. But basically with the Empire ships that have shunting mechanics, what you want to do is you want to make sure your throttle is at 0, and you want to throw your power into weapons. Now, as you can see, there's 2 bars of energy that kind of is in my lasers. There's that first bar, which is just standard lasers, and then there's the overcharge, that second bar that kind of goes over it, where you can get those overcharged lasers, okay? Now, that's also kind of like your energy bar, more than it is like your laser power. It's also your energy bar that you're going to be, you know, kind of maintaining. So anytime you basically have full overcharged and I shunt into my engines, that's going to give me full boost. Now, if I keep my energy in weapons, but you can see my boost meter is kind of going down, and then I can shunt back, and then I can shunt to engines again, and I still have full boost. And that doesn't matter if I'm kind of like, you know, drifting or whatever, you're still going to be gaining that energy, even if you don't really see it. I'm not really doing anything with my lasers. I'm kind of just drifting. Eventually I'll stop here, and then my boost meter is going to go down as power is in weapons. So the way that this works is you want to practice effectively and efficiently shunting between your engines and then back to weapons. Engines, back to weapons. Engines, back to weapons. And just kind of get the feel for that, about what you have to do. And then what you can do is you can put your throttle at 0, shunt to engines, boost drift, and then shunt back to weapons. Engines, boost drift, weapons. Engines, boost drift, shunt to weapons. Shunt to engines, boost drift, shunt to weapons. And this is basically going to be your pattern for flying, okay? So really just practice moving your power between your engines and your weapons. This is how you're going to be flying with the TIE Fighter, the TIE Interceptor, and the TIE Bomber. There's some intricacies to the power management of each ship, but for the most part, you know, this is kind of the core mechanic. And based off of how good your connection is how fast you can shunt back and forth, how fast you can bounce. And you have a high amount of mobility with unlimited energy, unlimited power, as Palpatine says. He wasn't kidding, and he put that in his ships. But you need to know how to do it. So just really practice this in practice mode. Just do like 5 to 10 minutes a day and get that rhythm down. And you always want to be shunting back to weapons, because anytime I'm drifting, I want to be shooting at a target here. Bounce, shoot, 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 shunt to engines, shunt back to weapons, shoot, 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 shunt to engines, boost drift, shunt back to weapons immediately, shoot, shoot, shoot. And as you can see, I'm always having basically a full overcharged bar and still having plenty of power to shunt back into my engines to boost drift and then move back to weapons. The key is always move back to weapons. At least with the TIE Fighter, with the TIE Interceptor. It's a little bit different for the TIE Bomber, but this is what I just used to show the overall mechanic. So let's go over to TIE Bomber now. So on TIE Bomber, I'm running the SLAM engine, which is very easy for beginners as well. You can use jet if you want and fly it like a Y-wing. That's completely fine. It's a little different on how the shunting is, but it's the same thing for slam engine, and you're gonna get a lot more drift power out of your slam bomber versus your jet bomber. So I shunt to my engines, I boost drift, and you're basically gonna do the same thing. Shooting, shunt to engines, boost drift, shunt to weapons, shooting, shunt to engines, boost drift, shunt to weapons, shooting. This is kind of what you're going to be doing. Now with bombers, you can hold the drift a little bit longer because the shunt charge isn't as fast as the TIE fighter and its burst lasers. You have a rotary, which is a lot more slower on the charge because the clip is so large and how many lasers you can put downfield. So I can't do this endlessly. It's not really showing it, but it's really hard. It's actually really easy for you to start losing power if you're not careful, if you're kind of bouncing too much with the TIE bomber. But as you can see here, I'm bouncing quite a bit, and I'm still not losing any energy once I throw my energy back in engines and then back into weapons when I'm boost drifting. This is the power of the TIE bomber, especially the slam bomber, is that you can really take these long drifts to just kind of hold that drift, and you're always going to get full power back when it comes to your orbits. This is where you're going to see a huge spike in damage, is once you kind of get this moving to engines, boost drifts, shunting back to weapons, and then getting your guns back on target. Now, when you're going to, so that's really what I want you just to practice in practice mode, is to just practice this movement. Engines, boost drift, weapons, shoot. Engines, boost drift, weapons, shoot. Okay, I'm not moving my power like I'm not doing any power management at all. As you can see, I'm just keeping it in weapons the whole time. And then you just shunt chart, or you're shunting to engines. Shunt to engines, boost drift, shunt to weapons, shoot. Shunt to engines, boost drift, weapons, shoot. Okay? You're just going to be shunting the shunting ships. This is the power of Empire. Alright, so when it comes to traversing an area, you can keep your energy, you can keep your shunted energy in engines. And then look at my speed meter. Once that hits 180, I can boost again. 180, boost again. 180, boost again. Boost drift again, I should say. 180, boost drift again. And then anytime you need more power, say you're like traversing across to get a pack, I'm starting to get low on power here. Because I'm waiting for the 180, there's actually more charging going on in the background that we can't see, other than the ones that are in my weapons. So I shunt again, and look at that. I got full energy again to traverse the map. This is strictly only for traversing a map. You should leave your energy in engines. Every other time, you're going to want to shunt back to your weapons so that you can shoot. But that's basically the key to shunt charging on Empire ships that allow that just have the two systems, which are the TIE Bomber, the TIE Fighter, and the TIE Interceptor. So really just practice that movement, and that's essentially shunt charging, and where you're going to get a lot of overcharge damage, just endless rotary for farming, for OBJ damage, whatever you need. It's really going to be the biggest gun on the field. But that's basically the tutorial. If you have any questions, just let me know. Peace.